We're all on this planet together. So join Odyssey and find your one thing. August is a great month to help out the environment by improving your gas mileage. Make sure your tires are properly inflated, and heavy items like golf clubs aren't stored in your trunk. Take your car in for a tune-up to ensure it's running at peak performance. And when the weather is nice, walk or bike to your destination to enjoy a beautiful summer day. Join Odyssey, and together, each of us doing one thing makes a greener tomorrow. What's your one thing?
This month on the 11th, a writer named Sarah shares the story of a false accusation of sexual misconduct. And then, her inbox is flooded, with hundreds of other people saying they too have been falsely accused. A professor, a federal government whistleblower, a candidate for sheriff. What responsibility does she have to these other stories, these other people? Was it her role to decide who's telling the truth? That's this month on the 11th, a new podcast from Pineapple Street Studios.
It's Mike Shope.
Excuse me?
And the Bulldog.
What's going on with Cortland Sutton?
On WGR, Sports Radio 550.
Hey, welcome back. Excuse Bulldog's crazy comment right there. You want to talk about the Bills season with us? How much do you trust the offense? Like 1 to 10? Maybe it's a 10. 803-0550 is the number. It'd be great to connect with some fans, which we do sometimes. And when we do that, it's because of our friends at Bond, Shenick & King, a full-service Buffalo law firm. Can we go back to the Texans for a second?
Sure.
I was like, I saw that story and I clicked on it, and then the site's like, oh, for 10 cents a week, you can read this article. And I'm like, I don't have 10 cents a week. So what
Who
is...
does?
You're spending it all on that car wash.
In these
When was the last time you guys were at the car wash? I was there yesterday.
Been over a week.
Sunday.
Maybe
Joe,
maybe I'll go tonight.
We need a board with car wash news, car wash updates.
Car wash updates.
No line.
Like,
the last time I went, no line.
I went Sunday morning, like 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning, on a beautiful Sunday morning, thinking, oh boy, this is probably there's going to be a line.
Yep.
Yeah, I was in and out of there in 3 minutes. I mean, gone. I
That's
didn't even
as
know
good
I
as
went.
you can do. Yeah.
Oh, it couldn't be beat.
We need one of those signs in here that says days since last car wash.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was weird the car wash makes you wear a mask. No, I'm just kidding. They I don't think they do.
You're indoors.
I thought that would be funny.
We need an app. What we need is an app like we have for like the border crossing, which, is only now just starting to be useful again, provided you can, do all the things that need to be done in order to cross the border. But, in years past, like that was a key app to have. It could be like, 6:30 on a Friday or any day when I'm living in Canada for the summer. Like, okay, what's the bridge look like? We need that for the car wash. Like, what's the line? What's the situation? Can I get in and out of there really fast?
Yep.
Because I don't just drive by one. Now that I've been coming to work. I mean, you drive right by one, I think, on your way to work.
Oh,
so that's
yes.
easy in and out. Like no line, great. Me, I'm driving up Delaware Avenue from where I live, and like I hope there's no line. Anyway.
The last time I went, I want to get to the Texans, but the last time I went, which I think was Monday, I was on my way shopping, right? So that's really like I had a pretty easy morning, and I just was on my way to the grocery store. I'm like, fine, I'll just fit in a car wash here. It had been 4 days, maybe 5.
Oof.
So I'll fit in a car wash, and I thought, what would really be the ultimate car wash move? It's not like going through and then going right back through. It's leaving your house to go to the car wash, getting the car wash, and going right back home. It just not coupling it with any other errand at all. Like I'm just going out to get the car wash. That's it.
I have done that since I've had the pass. I have done that since I've had the pass. Yes. Sunday was not one of those days. I did go shopping after I went to the car wash, but I have left the house after the show on a weeknight. That's it. Go to the car wash.
Which is,
come right home.
It's nice if you're listening to a show you like or something. It's just like sort of it's an outing.
Sure.
I mean, you can't drink or anything. Like you can't have a beer or anything during it, right? That would be you could. Absolutely not. No, you can. You should not.
It's illegal. You should
not
do that. You could.
No. So like there are better times.
Yep.
But it's it was kind of nice. All right. So car wash update. So the Texans are trying now. this is some percentage to spite the media, or it's not. The text, because the way Joe ended that made me wonder if it is that at all. The Texans want to stop training camp.
So far, so good. Yes.
And
like now,
this lines up with that they wanted to stop minicamp early because they said they were all set.
Yeah, they didn't even have it. They didn't even show up. Like, they just, like, a week before it happened, they're like, we're not doing minicamp.
Right.
Did you know that? I don't remember that.
I remember hearing that because it was, mostly I saw cheeky tweets about it. Like, oh, sure, new head coach, no idea who the quarterback is, no idea who's really on the roster. Yeah, that team should not be practicing. Yeah, good idea.
Well, I thought at the time they were doing it because they just didn't want Deshaun Watson questions.
Right.
Like, everyone, every day, they're being like, oh, where's Deshaun? Or what's happening there? And right. I guess that could also be this. Like, they want to...
Well, how bad could it actually get? I mean, really, when have you ever heard of a team just not wanting to practice? Like, when have you ever heard of that? Any level?
Never. Never.
Once in a while, like, my kids' teams would have a practice canceled because they won a game or something, and, like, instead we're going to go to the fun center.
Have the day off, we're going to play Lasertron. Right. Right.
Malarkey, taking the Bills to the movies or something. Like, once in a while. But the next day it's going to be double time. Yeah. The next day is going to be tough practice because we skipped yesterday to watch a movie.
So they want to end training camp now. Is there some, again, I don't have access to this 10 cents a week site or whatever it is right now, so I'll ask. Is there some technicality within the coverage of training camp that it's different from the coverage of practice so they could escape the eyeballs that they're getting during training camp? Like, that would seem to be the likely motivation.
That seems what they're trying to do. They want to end training camp, but they want to kick into regular season mode. And in regular season mode, then the media can basically only watch stretching and warm-ups, and you can block out as much as you want after that. Whereas training camp, they're allowed to watch everything. Right. And yeah, that's I think what they're trying to do.
Wow.
They'd still be practicing.
Right. Which is how we get those reports early in camp that Deshaun Watson was playing safety.
Right. Which that's happening maybe every day there. So that's why I think maybe they're sick of stop paying attention to what Deshaun Watson's doing.
Well then, give him something else to do.
Or I wish they weren't practicing because then they're tanking.
Right.
It's an ultimate tank move. We're just gonna play games, see how that happens. See how that goes.
It's unbelievable.
So as soon as camp is over, you can close practice, basically. Like, if you're in regular season mode, you can restrict access, and that's it, right. I'm not the smartest guy on the radio. That's the first guess I have. Like, isn't the entire free football world going to see right through this? Like, what do you think you're doing? It's August. It's training camp. You can't have closed practices. It's part of how this works.
Well, who really minds, though? I mean, you and I do. I hate that stuff. I hate all the things like Sal can't tell you things that happen at practice because why? The Patriots will find out. And, fans are fine with it. That's what I mean. Like, fans are like, that makes sense. That's how it should be. Why should we get to know things? Why should we want to know things? Like, well, come on. What's the point? The point is to follow the team and to know things. And, they're not giving you the plays. They're going to change it 50 times anyway. Somebody might want to know how Ed Oliver looks. That seems reasonable to me. That seems like what you're doing when you decide to follow sports. And the Bills are like, no, you can't know that. I mean, it's not exactly an example, but there's just tons of stuff they won't tell you. You're not allowed to say because it's too informative. Well, jeez. Oh, I'm so sorry for wanting to know how, who the starters are on the team or something. Like, geez, come on. So, but, again, I just feel like I'm strongly in the minority on that. And probably even by people who disagree, accused of having some sort of weird media bias or something like that. I don't know. I'd feel the same way if I were listening to you say this in my car. Because get over yourself.
Yeah,
it's not just them either. By the way, if I need to say that,
right? Sure, no, right. The whole league is like this. Yeah. So Where does this stand? Like, are the Texans expected to get away with
No,
this?
the NFL's told them no. Like today they said, no, you can't do this. Like August 26th, you have to go at least till then, and then do whatever you want.
Then do whatever you want.
They tried and they failed, essentially.
Yeah.
What are they going to have Bible study instead of practices or something? What's going on over there? Come on, Houston.
A lot of weird things are happening over there.
I just made a bet that they will not finish with the league's worst record. I do think, like, if we're really talking about not the media, but if we're really talking about practice, I mean, we know that teams have forever overdone it, and the trend has, for a long time now, gradually been more and more lenient in practice. I mean, sure, there's a logical argument for how certain aspects of the game suffer from that, but really, it's an entertainment product. The entertainment product doesn't suffer ever, it seems. Like, it's just, how was last year?
Isn't the game more entertaining if guys aren't tackling as soundly as they would be if they had practiced harder?
Okay.
Right? I mean, ultimately, right, why did we like last year? Offense exploded. Was that because of, fewer, less, less hitting, less, all the restrictions on meetings and practices? Did it hurt defense? If it did, I mean, it didn't hurt the product, I don't think. I mean, unless people really miss 13, 12 games, which, maybe there's some fans that do. But mostly, I think, from an entertainment standpoint, the league loved all the offense, and I would expect they're hoping for even more of it.
What are the numbers on that? I don't have anything in front of me. Do you guys, like, just last year, we know what how the Bills, their offense exploded, and they're an extreme example of how last year was different than prior. 31 points a game. You made that reference that we've made many times to how Sean McDermott would say to us, we'd love to score 50 points. I'm like, why can't your number be 30 points?
Right.
Because, like, that's an actually good number that's attainable in the league, and, 50 is nuts. Last year, when the Bills rolled out just about their best offense ever, just about as good of an offense as the league ever sees, it was 501. Which is, I think it was 501, which would be 31 points a game. Like, there's your elite. 30's elite.
Right.
So let's use 30. Last year in the league, though, I don't know where to even start to find these numbers. It can't be that hard. The average points per game versus previous years. Anyway, maybe we'll get there. It was up. And there's nothing about it I didn't like.
It was up, and I would be surprised to find out different as the year ended. I think it's one of those things I think we heard about. I remember hearing about it early in the year, and then I probably lost track of it.
24.8. Sorry. Okay. 24.8 points per game. The year before, 22.8. 1 year. Fans, right? I mean,
sure,
rules, yes. Practice. I love that no
tackling.
Preseason right. Didn't matter at all, right? Like, it just, I love that it didn't matter at all. They still had training camps, even Houston. But
against their will, but
they forced themselves to practice. But they did not have preseason games, and who cares? Who even thinks about that? Like, scoring was up, the league was fine, even with COVID and everything like that. It was a fun and interesting year. 24.8. Prior to that, 22.8. Before that, 22.4. That's a big jump. So, do we think it goes back down now? What's your guess on that? Like, now we have fans means harder for road teams to score?
In theory, yeah. And I think I think that's probably right. Now, I don't know. You just found that number. How up was road team scoring last year? Was it up significantly? I would guess that it is.
Me too.
Like, anecdotally, it would make sense if scoring was up overall, that road team scoring played a part in that. But that might be a number to keep track of this year. Like, how impactful is it to have, 65,000 people in there, whether they're wearing masks or not, screaming their heads off? Does that put a drag on offensive numbers for road teams and thus offense in general? It might. That's just, I'm guessing at that, but it's a sensible guess, I think. So maybe that will change. But boy, I would think the league loved what they got last year offensively. I know we certainly we were we did here in Buffalo. I don't want anything to change rules wise. So I doubt that they would go the other way with any of the rules, but the crowds might be impactful in that way. We'll see.
Joe found a tweet from a Bucks reporter, Jenna Lane of ESPN. Every training camp practice of the defending Super Bowl champions is entirely open to the media, and nearly every practice is open to season ticket holders. Limiting access does not correlate to a higher winning percentage, if somebody was trying to make that point. But good for Tampa. Last year was a tough year for me as someone that really didn't like Bruce Arians that much. But he didn't, they won it all. Seems like kind of an interesting guy, right?
Right.
I've always been surprised you don't like him.
Kind of retired. I have to file that. I don't even remember really what it was. I remember a little bit of what it was. It was that he punted all the time. He was a leader in wimpy punts. And yet he seemed to have the reputation to the contrary. Like he was this, innovative risk taker or something. But
throw the ball down the field guy.
Yeah, like two different things, though. I mean, I'd give him – I wouldn't want to take credit away from him for what he is as an offensive coach. He's had lots of good years. I mean, lots of them with different great quarterbacks, but still, that's how it goes. But still, like game situations-wise, he was not really good, at least then when he was coaching Arizona. This was true. And so I sort of resented the fact that he was treated just so kindly for being like, because you can conflate the two things. Somebody, he's aggressive or he's, smart. He seems like a smart, quick-witted guy.
And it seems to me like he's aggressive in one facet, but not the other. Because throwing the ball, like he is always pushing it down the field, and he's asking a lot of his quarterbacks. That's why Jameis Winston had 30 interceptions. Well, part of the reason. But it has never correlated to game decision-making. And to me, that means you should only get half the credit for being like innovative like that.
Just different things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he gets a free pass because he's a cool guy with a hat.
The clothes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
glasses.
Cool.
Last year with the glasses.
He's a cool guy. He's a cool guy. He's a cool old guy. Look at that guy. He's a cool guy. I bet he rides a Harley. He's
I always
a cool
thought
guy. Look at that guy.
You'd like him because he's just like he doesn't pull punches. Like he's saying last week OJ Howard's like he stinks so far in practice. Like I don't know if he's all the way back.
He was hard on Brady last year in September. He was.
Yeah.
We talked about it quite a lot.
Right.
Like listen to him talk about Brady.
He's like, that's not the Brady I saw in practice today.
Right. What's your problem? You're the quarterback. The what? I don't know if it was an exact quote, but that's kind of how it felt.
That fed into my feelings about him because I was like, how can you pull this? What's this about? Right? Just relax. But whatever.
They got there.
They got there. We got there. Got through the day.
Yep.
We got through that day. We'll get through this day. Talking about whatever. Paul Hamilton coming up. Paul was at Bill's practice today. We'll ask him some football questions. We do not have resolution on that draft yet with Paul. I don't anyway. He's got the draft order all set. Joe is in it now.
Third.
Yeah.
Third. But I don't think I can go. I don't. Should you just quit? Should you just quit when you can't go to the draft? Should
hire a proxy.
Hire a proxy. Yes. Is that worth doing?
Sure.
Do you want to play in the league?
You're going to be out of town. You want to have Carolyn bring Julius by, and then Julius can go, and I'll hang out with Julius, and he can pick your team.
Julius draft my team.
Yeah.
It's not going to go worse than it did in that league last year for me. I think the last 2 years even maybe. Made a lot of bad picks. Last year I drafted that team while doing another draft at the same time. And I think maybe I was a little bit too casual about that. Anyway, so we'll talk to Paul about Bill's practice and continue. Mike Shope and the Bulldog here. The update from Sneaky Joe after this on WGR.
It's Paul Hamilton with Mike Shope and the Bulldog on WGR Sports Radio 550.
Joe just mentioned it. Paul was with the Bills today. Should we talk about this Robin Leonard story, though? Paul, I mean, I don't know how prepared you might be to do that. I know you were at Bill's
totally
practice.
Prepared because it's absolutely true. And I said it when that man got let go. I mean, everything I had heard from players and everything, he was just totally and completely Oliver Finley. He was not at all qualified for that job. And Robin Leonard wasn't the only one who had problems with injuries. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, thinking back to that, that was the group that was recommended by not Bilesma, the one who didn't do the job, went to Toronto. Can't think of his name.
Babcock.
Thank you.
Oh.
That group was recommended by Babcock, and they weren't all a disaster. The sports science people were very good. Joe Clubb, who just left to go back to Europe, and the folks she was with were excellent and really, are still there, and some of them. But Oliver Finley was a joke, and everything Robin Leonard said is absolutely true.
For folks who don't know what we're referring to, Robin Leonard appeared on a somewhat, I guess, a popular I see it a lot in my feed, a podcast based out of St. Louis. I think Cam Jansen and Andy Strickland, maybe. Yep. Cam and Strick are the hosts of that. Cam Jansen, former NHLer, and Leonard was on, and I retweeted the thing. You got to go into it and find it, and it was a little hard for me to find how I was directed by the content of the article I clicked on. But nonetheless, if you get to it, Leonard talked about how he was in bad shape when he got here. He'd been concussed, and they wanted him to play. He was traded for, so he wasn't in shape to play to begin with. He was heavy, and go figure, suffered a foot injury carrying extra weight playing goalie in the NHL. And so he said basically he tore everything in his foot, and like within days or just much sooner than he should have been, they had him on an exercise bike and doing like leg presses and stuff and just stressing the injury in a way that you should not be doing. And I mean, he was very candid about it and just said it was just a disaster.
He said he was doing 300-pound leg presses 3 weeks into it. And he said it was the worst grade ankle sprain you could have. He tore everything in it. They put him on a bike. He said he should have been walking on it maybe 6 to 8 weeks after they got it, but they had him on a bike almost right away within a week after he had fully torn everything. And, that was an absolute mess.
Well, that's in the past, right?
Oh, yeah, that was back in 2015. And
fully in the past.
That guy didn't. I think he lasted 8 months. I believe is how long he was around, and I'm surprised he actually lasted that long.
Somewhat less than Leonard in his career here. Okay, well, tough story. Let's talk about the Bills. Paul, you were with them today. What did you learn?
Well, of course, the big story: Josh Allen's not going to play in the first preseason game, and everything's different. You go from, and we've been wondering this and talking about it. How are they going to handle 3 preseason games as compared to 4? We knew how coaches always handled the 4. And even McDermott admitted this a little bit. He's not real worried about his starters. I mean, last year, he said they had to learn on the fly, and what they learned was there were no preseason games. There were no OTAs. Josh Allen had a brand new wide receiver we never played with before. In his first game, he had 8 catches for 86 yards. He looked just fine. He admitted right now what at least the first preseason game is all about is the other end of the roster, the back end of the roster, giving those guys a chance, seeing what they've got there. They know what they've got in Diggs and Allen, and you can go through the names. You know exactly who I'm talking about. But this is the time for those guys who can help them as player 46 and player 47 and player 48, special teams, who are going to be the backups, who are going to be best to be around here in case there's injuries. That's at least what they're doing in preseason game number 1. And it sounds like, he said it, they're going to take it as the games come, but it sounds like it's going to be pretty much like that throughout.
Is that pretty agreeable with you, Paul?
Yes.
I for one, am fine if Allen never plays in August, right? I mean, for me, it doesn't matter. I can appreciate Sal makes the point often enough that McDermott likes to get everybody through the procedures, getting the plays in and out of the huddle, just get the rhythm, get a feel for it a little bit. So, okay. But as far as, like you're saying here, his sharpness with Stephon Diggs, a player who he would not have known before he was acquired by the Bills in March of 2020, fine, no problem. So with the chemistry and all that and being up to speed. So, I wonder if a lot of teams, I think something to watch this entire summer in the NFL, not just with the Bills, is what teams may have learned by not having had a preseason last year and now having 3 games this year.
Yeah, and you're protecting the player from injury. I mean, you lose Josh Allen, you've lost your season. It's as simple as that. I don't think there's any question about that. I mean, you're just not going to have a backup quarterback that can do even close to the things that Josh Allen can do for you. So, to expose him like that when last year I think showed us that maybe – and I remember Larry Felser used to talk about – they used to have 6 preseason games.
Right.
Yep.
Can you imagine what that was? Yeah. But that was different, too. That was in an era where nobody worked out in the offseason. Right. You showed up in training camp and you weighed 380 pounds and you'd been drinking beer all summer and you might have worked a summer job, and some AFL players did that, but you certainly weren't taking care of your body and being in shape. So maybe that was part of it, that they used all that time to get themselves into shape, where now players are in top physical condition all year long. So, that, I don't even know if they need 3, to be quite honest with you. If you want to get 1, maybe 2, or a preseason game and a scrimmage, just to give some guys a look that you want to give a look to. I think your guys that have been around here for a long time will be fine if they don't see any time, and unless you want to just give them a series or 2, just as you said, so they can break the huddle and just take a live snap here a couple of times and then be out of the game.
Paul Hamilton with us on the Wester Hotline. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog WGR. The official depth chart is out. I don't know if it means anything. These things are not binding, by law or anything, the team's depth chart. But if you buy into it, there are a couple of interesting things maybe. One is Singletary over Moss. And, Paul, I guess Moss is an injury now. I mean, I don't guess. I've heard about it, probably from you. So he's not going to be in this game, I assume.
He's not, or I don't think he is. Yeah, he did not practice today, and neither did Duke Williams, so that would mean chances of them playing in this game would be pretty slim. I think it's more 1A, 1B. I talking to Moss last week, he's saying it doesn't really matter who starts. He goes, if I start and we win the Super Bowl, if he starts and we win the Super Bowl, who cares? He said there are 2 different types of running backs, and I think there are going to be teams where one running back might be more beneficial than the other, and I think there are going to be games where the other one might be more beneficial, depending on what you're looking for. And then you've got a third back in Breida who can absolutely fly. He had a good day today. I'll tell you what, it's fun to watch him. He's through the hole and into the linebackers and secondary in no time. I mean, it's just bang, he's there with the speed that he possesses. So he brings something different than the other 2 don't have. So you got 3 guys that bring something totally different to the table. And then McKenzie's kind of a wide receiver running back who they have certain plays for him, where they run the football. And he does very well with it. So that gives him a 4th look. So I think it poses a lot of problems for opposing defenses. But, yeah, in the running back case, I wouldn't really look too much into who's starting, because I don't think that much matters. I think it matters more on the personnel that are on the field for the other team.
Boy, Paul, you talking about Breida there, that sounds like it has a chance to be the best of Bill's training camp today, brought to you by the Barnes firm. Car crash, call 1-800-8-MILLION. I know you've been covering Bill's practice for a long, long time, but you're new to these sponsored elements, so I just wanted to get that in while we could. Well, if you have a different choice, feel free to volunteer it. But.
We are behind the music right here, aren't we? This is all the thought that went into that. Love it. Singletary over Moss, okay, such as it is. Emmanuel Sanders over Davis at a wide receiver position. I'm not really surprised by that at all, but it's kind of interesting, maybe.
I think, but how many times are you just going to see a couple of wide receivers on the team? Even 3. I think most downs you're going to see 4, so they'd all be on the field anyway. So I think it's the veteran who can play inside, play outside. He can do a lot of things for you. So I think it's more of a veteran courtesy. And again, I think it's what you're looking for. I mean, they went to Davis more than any other receiver in the end zone last year when they got near the end zone into the red zone. So he's probably going to be more valuable and more of a target when they get near the end zone. But there are going to be certain plays when they're looking for first downs and maybe out at the 40-yard line or something like that where Sanders is going to be more valuable because of the way he runs routes and things like that.
All right, the Yankees are hot.
Yeah, they weren't last night. They dropped that one 7-4. I think they committed 4 errors in that game. Even when you're playing the Kansas City Royals, I don't think you're going to win too many games committing 4 errors. And they were just errors where you're sitting there going, boy, I wouldn't even expect my slow-pitch softball team to make some of these errors that I'm looking at here. They were just errors that you wouldn't normally see in a Major League Baseball game, and they wound up losing that game. They were in the game for most of it, and then they got carried away with more errors and wound up getting themselves behind.
Bounced back with a win today. How many Yankee games a week do you think you watch?
Well, during the Olympics, very few. The Yankees were my commercial during the Olympics. When the Olympics went to a commercial, I'd zoom over to the Yankee game. And, having, cable, I could, if there was a couple of runs scored, I could rewind back as long as within an hour and find the runs that were scored and see what I had missed. So that's a nice feature that I have that way. So I watch games pretty much that way all the time. I might watch a program that I like, and then in the commercials go to the Yankee game because I know I can rewind and that type of thing. So start to finish, maybe one, but I'm usually tuned in at some point during the game. Now, I actually wasn't even aware they had an afternoon game today,
Yes.
So I wasn't tuned in. But I'm usually at least tuned into it for some of the game.
You like cooking shows? What do you like? You like to watch Food Network?
I used to watch Restaurant Impossible, but then I got tired of that because the guy's always screaming at people. So
you saying that grows old?
Yeah, I got that grew old on me. When I was traveling, I liked those shows where they went to different cities, eating different foods and that kind of thing.
Yes.
And we often would go to those restaurants. I remember telling you when we were in Anaheim, Rob and me and John Vogel, we all went to Slater's 50-50, which is half ground beef, half ground bacon. And
finally someone tried that.
Yeah.
And Rob got a burger the size of his giant head, right? Something like that.
He was a little disappointed. I mean, just a regular burger was too much for me, and he got a double and wished he had gotten a triple. And I remember John talking about he went to the butcher here in Buffalo. He was having a cookout, and he asked the butcher to put that together for him. And he said, I get out on my grill. He said, honest to God, I had flames up to the roof of my house, because from the bacon, and the grease and everything. So they aren't the healthiest burger in the world. It's not something you want to eat a lot of. But, if you're out in Anaheim and you want to splurge, it's the best thing I've ever eaten as far as a burger goes.
You can't say you didn't get good advice from this show today. If you're in Anaheim, here's a restaurant. The Doghouse, Razor's Doghouse. I just went to the Eden Corn Festival. That's Rob, isn't it?
It used to be. He sold it.
Oh, he did? Okay.
Sold it to the guy who used to be a linesman in the American Hockey League.
Okay.
So he's running it now.
I'm really glad you know that. So when we got to the Corn Festival on Saturday, the woman, as we paid to park, gave everybody like a free hot dog from Razor's Doghouse. And I said to the woman, is Rob here today? Ha, 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 right? Is Rob here today? And she said, no, he won't be. Yeah. They're so interesting. Like, wait, I just asked a parking attendant if Rob Ray is going to be at the court, and she knows. She claims to know that he will not be there. And I didn't see him.
He's busy now. He's building a home in Ellicottville.
Oh, that will keep you busy. That will keep you busy.
And he wants to put a pond in there, and he's having problems with drainage and everything. It's really aggravating him. So he's aggravated with his pond right now. So
he's got pond.
He actually
aggravation.
butt dialed me one time, and I was listening to him getting upset about his pond for about 20 minutes. It actually was a fun conversation to listen to, since he decided to dial me anyway. But yeah, I don't know if he's gotten that straightened out yet, but he's got a nice what I understand is a nice place out in Ellicottville he's building.
There's no such thing as a not nice place in Ellicottville,
right?
In my experience.
When we were getting ready to have Paul on, Mike said something to the effect of, "Who knows what may come up while we're talking to Paul?" And well, here we are.
Here we are.
I try to be unpredictable, and sometimes I'll blow your show up for you. I mean, I can do that for you sometimes.
I did ask you if you watch the Food Network. That's pretty random. That's not your fault. Thank you, Paul.
Take care, guys.
There you go. There's our Paul Hamilton. And his appearances on WGR are brought to you by Equitable Advisors. Planning for your future is about more than just money. Let Equitable be your guide. And by Relax Honda. Relax, we got this.
You're in the mood where you just want to have the TV on and veg almost. There is one thing that I'll always do in that situation. And it's turn on the Food Network. I don't even have the energy to look around, to browse. Just put on the Food Network, and whatever is on the Food Network is good enough. I'm happy with it. Is that weird or what? Is that sort of that makes sense?
Fine. We've been binging whatever. The kids, especially Owen, there's the barbecue show that we've been watching. It's like a contest barbecue show. And I don't know if it's a Food Network joint or what. It's on one of the streaming services. I don't know. And I've enjoyed watching that. Yeah, it's Tudden. Yes,
For cooking shows, the best I've ever seen is Open Table on Netflix. Those shows are gorgeous. We'll take a break. I know. How could you interrupt this? But we will. We have to. 803-0550 to reach us. That's how we get connected with our fans. Brought to you by Bond, Schoeneck & King, a full-service Buffalo law firm. I left a question 2 hours ago unanswered. We will answer it coming up here on WGR.
No, and again, it's another medical problem there, too. I mean, to some of the players when I was there, and especially to me regarding my ankle, I mean, it was crazy, man. I had a high ankle sprain. They had me on the bike 1 week after. Fully torn, everything, worst grade, a high ankle sprain. 1 week after, they put me on the bike with a special boot. I should have been walking on it maybe 6 to 8 weeks after I got it. They had me doing leg presses with 300 pounds 3 weeks into it, and I re-sprained everything and ended up having to have surgery. So not really how it works, isn't it? When you're younger, they have these so-called professionals and tells you what to do. Or Eichel said it. Eichel looked at what Eichel said himself. He doesn't make his decisions about his body.
Robin Lehner, and that again is from the Cam and Strick podcast. Just had a short discussion about some of Lehner's pretty damning comments about the Sabres organization and the medical staff during his time here just a few minutes ago with Paul. Bulldog, I just had a thought. I hope you take this as a compliment because that is how I mean it. I think you'd be a good lieutenant governor. The position appears to be open.
Yeah. Well, you don't my impression would be you don't have to do much other than not offend people. I can manage that.
It'd be tough for me. But, yeah, you just one thing you do is become governor at times. That seems to be one thing that can happen.
Yeah.
Is congratulations appropriate or inappropriate? I don't know. I don't want to be inappropriate, but
I think 100% appropriate.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah, however you get in. I mean, she didn't do anything. The governor disgraced himself and resigned, and she's the benefactor of that, the beneficiary of that. Congratulations. You're the governor of the state of New York.
How about that? Good luck.
Yep. A guest on this show.
She was just on this show a few times last year.
Yep.
We sort of have an in, maybe, with the governor that we didn't have before.
Yeah.
The first governor?
She's aware of us.
We had Ed Rendell, the governor of Pennsylvania.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. And he was governor at the time.
Yes. We had the mayor of Detroit on.
Yes.
Kwame Kirkpatrick.
Yes.
I'm done.
Active politicians. Was Schwarzenegger the governor of California when he was on?
Oh, he's been on?
What?
All right, Ed Rendell.
This is a moment for real on this show that is not a put on. I'm 100% not positive you're kidding.
Oh.
Did we?
See, this is why I might not be a good lieutenant governor.
Never talked to. I mean, I forget a lot of stuff. Although I had these politicians, so I probably remembered Arnold.
I met a friend randomly the other night, And he told me a story about a guy he knows that dislikes me strongly. And my friend, which I appreciated, says he came to my defense. He said, "Why? Mike's a friend of mine. Why would you dislike him? Do you know him?" He's like, "No, I don't know him. I hear the show." And I did have one interaction with him. And I'm not prepared yet to tell you the whole story because I don't know if I want to be that detailed. But I said a thing as a joke once. You were there. I'll tell you off the air, at least.
Okay.
You were there. I said a thing as a joke to this person who I hadn't met before. And, I mean, it was good. It was a good line. And, you know, any reasonable person, I think, would know it was supposed to be funny. But this guy did not think it was funny, and this is many, many years later, and he has held that against me. I don't know him still. He's held that against me all this time. My friend tells me the story, and I'm like, yeah, I remember the day. He told me the story. He knows this person who you said this thing once, and he did not appreciate it. I'm like, oh, yeah, no, that's not something I would disown. Like, I remember, it's not only something I could have said, I remember the day. I remember the exchange. Like, yeah, no, the person thought I was serious? Like, just 15 years. That kind of stuff, I fall into those little situations, and that would be a problem for me as lieutenant governor, I believe. Mm-hmm. You are much more sort of, you're able to sort of, the waters are smoother, I think, for you in these ways.
Yeah, sure.
But
yeah,
you know, I can't resist the line, right? I got to say it. So
right, you got to say what's got to be said.
Yeah, it just doesn't have to be. That's the problem. It doesn't have to be said.
Yeah,
and
right,
someone who doesn't know you or have a sense of humor, perhaps, doesn't like appreciate it. Like, no, that didn't have to be said. Many people would just not say anything. But you know, I'm not like that. It was a good line. I took it as a compliment that this line made sort of a dent, like sort of made a mark. Because, that was pretty clever. But, you know, that can get me into trouble. Yeah. All right. You're a Bills fan. Your fantasy leagues are coming up. What you want to win, though? Like, you know, the Bills are good now. So maybe now I can draft all my Bills and expect to win. What do you do? I want to tell you something about what this thing I was in, which, like, super good players last night for Draft Sharks. And, maybe answer that question. We can talk about that.
I noticed something. I did look. You know, listen, I have my fun with you about all this stuff, but when I saw that Matt Waldman tweet, there was the draft grid was up, and I noticed something about it right away. I did look at it with some intent.
All right.
So, I have an observation also.
Bills talk with a little bit of a fantasy slant when we return. Mike Schopen, the Bulldog, WGR.
The COVID-19 pandemic showed us how a microscopic virus could upend our lives. There is so much out there that we need to understand. But for every threat, there are heroes working at the edges of science and policy to protect us. I'm Dr. Abdul El-Sayed, former Detroit Health Director and host of Crooked Media's America Dissected. Every episode, I talk to the doctors, scientists, culture makers, and policy leaders who are working out new ways to protect us against our biggest threats. New episodes of America Dissected every Tuesday. Listen on Odyssey, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
On Pod Save the World, we want to be your cheat sheet for global events. My name is Tommy Vitor, and each week, my co-host Ben Rhodes and I break down the biggest stories from around the world. Ben and I both worked on President Obama's national security staff, and we'll introduce you to the activists, politicians, and journalists who can help us understand what's going on around the world, what it means for the United States, and what it's like being inside the White House Situation Room during a crisis.
Listen on Odyssey, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your pods.
We're all on this planet together. So join Odyssey and find your one thing. August is a great month to help out the environment by improving your gas mileage. Make sure your tires are properly inflated, and heavy items like golf clubs aren't stored in your trunk. Take your car in for a tune-up to ensure it's running at peak performance. And when the weather is nice, walk or bike to your destination to enjoy a beautiful summer day. Join Odyssey, and together, each of us doing one thing makes a greener tomorrow. What's your one thing?